We're going live.
This should never hurt. This should never hurt.
The sound you're about to hear can be devastating to your ear.
Okay, so welcome to week 29 of Why Do People Dance This Weird?
Hilarious.
And we got that from Theo, and I wanted to disrupt what you normally would hear so that you will remember that no, it's not why do people dance this weird? It is, what did Prince do this week? That's right, week 29 of What Did Prince Do This Week, a very slow read of Duane Tudahl's Prince Studio Sessions book series through an interactive weekly online book club. And I'm super excited because we have not only the one and only Michael Dean with us this week, but we also have my best friend from high school, Rick and Wyatt, in the house. How you guys doing?
Hey, living the dream.
That's what's up, right? Okay.
What is this you're listening to? I like it.
Yeah, isn't it cool? I thought you might like it. It's actually from the same CDR we listened to last week. And do we remember who we listened to last week?
Atlanta Bliss.
Atlanta Bliss, that's right, with a little somebody on the side called Eric Leeds. So this song is called Space and Time. I love it. Has like a bit of a 70s, like 70s movies vibe. I'm getting like Steve McQueen or 60ish, 70ish kind of thing going on.
Listen, Jive Turkey, give me the money, man. Where the dope at, sucker?
Junebug ain't hurt nobody.
We ain't got no weapon.
That's right.
Oh man, is that CDR available for purchase or?
No. This was handed directly to my husband from Atlanta Bliss. So,
okay. So
this is, yeah.
Oh, that's all right.
Yeah.
Hey.
So I hope you guys are enjoying the Atlanta Bliss. All right, let's get through the housekeeping. We're going week to week, not date to date. Follow the detailed schedule at the QR code. This is such a cool song. And you do not need the expanded edition. I think I got this upside down. I do. And I can't find my mouse because I can't see. Here we go. That's what we're reading. That's right. These will be archived at Polish Solid and at MD on YouTube. Please subscribe, like, and help spread the word. All right. This is our hashtag WDPDTW for What Did Prince Do This Week. I'm very excited to talk about what Prince did this week. But remember, this is an independent endeavor. It is not affiliated with the estate of Prince Rogers Nelson. It's not associated or connected with the estate. So again, we're listening to Atlanta Bliss, Space and Time.
He get his Miles Davis on with this one.
Yeah, it totally does have a Miles Davis vibe. And these are the players. And we have Atlanta Bliss as the composer on this. All right, so let's get into week 29. And this week we have 2 new songs and 3 studio visits total, if I did this right, and 1 rehearsal, because I see problems all over. I got problems in my schedule that I got to fix. So let me go to the book to make sure I'm actually saying this right, because I feel like everything's wrong. So on Sunday, we have Basic Tracking for Nothing Compares to You. And then on Monday, we have Basic Tracking, no vocals for Feline. And then this is where my error is on my calendar. We have Nothing Compares to You, saxophone overdubs on Wednesday, July 18th. So I got to move that on the calendar. My apologies. And then on Thursday, we had a rehearsal on Flying Cloud Drive Warehouse. But you know what? I'm going too fast. I don't know why I'm going so fast because we got to say hello to the peoples.
Yeah, I was like, damn.
So, and I don't know how to use Streamer anymore. So we're gonna say hello. I'm just excited about this music. It's pretty cool, actually. We're gonna say hello to April from Tampa. Thank you so much for joining us. We got Cassandra Bradley from the ATL. We got Nick Felden from Denver. We got Kimberly. So it's not going to be on YouTube or Facebook. It's going to be on Zoom events. And we'll talk more about that as we get closer to that time, Kimberly. But if you can't join us on Zoom events, the archives will be posted on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, which is at Polish Solid, where you can find all of the symposia, past and present. Good morning, Sakari. Thank you for being here. Good morning, Christina from Minneapolis. We got Melvin Rush II. I love this chili sauce kind of day. That's what's up. What up, though, Andre from Detroit? Welcome. Yeah, the D. That's what we're talking about. And we got Chip and Sparrow from Japan. So on time today before the teachers. That's right. That's how you do it. And then you got Anna B here, party people. We got El Dabara, hey, hey, hey. We got Man Ray 10. Yeah, what's up, purple people? We got Gisela from Germany. We got Raywin. Raymond got their coffee with their Prince coffee mug. That's the only way to do coffee. And we got JD Washington in the house. We got Dr. Claude. We got so many people in the house today. We got Theo. I hope, Theo, that you saw Why Do People Dance This Weird. We got Stone Freak from the ATL. We got Sister Charles. Happy Saturday from Houston. We have Mila My Heart. We have Chris Bornay. We have Zuzu's Petals. We have Purple Cat Confetti. I'm trying to go too fast. We got my literature brother Blade Brown. We got Tanja all through the night. Oh no, in pre-festival hell. I understand. But we're sending you lots of love, lots of rest.
You're doing big things over there, sister.
That's right.
Big things have big pressures and big responsibilities, but you got that.
You got this. That's right. We got our timekeeper in the house. We have Stone Freak. Nope, not an album. CDR. I'm trying to tell you. And we have K Cool Music. And yes.
Cool was like, you were trying to do something, K Cool? They're working, huh? Like,
oh my God. And we got Audra in the house from ATL. We have Stone Freak. I think we already said Stone Freak, but we're doing, good morning to Tanja. And then we got Lisa Williams here. And yes, Atlanta Bliss was grooving. I'm glad that you guys like that. And I love this 70s quote from Nick Felden. Do you want to say it, Michael Dean?
Nah, go ahead. You got it.
I don't tell no one where I hide my scratch. You dig?
Thank you. All right. And we got a what's up from Ricky, who is here with us. Let's see.
I gotta remember that. I don't tell no one where I hide my scratch. You dig?
Yes. Okay. Yep. Track is yes, I am raring to go. Yes.
You know, I do wonder why Atlanta didn't release that. That was kind of, that was. I mean, the past two weeks of listening to it, it is kind of solid. I'm kind of mad that old boy didn't. I mean, at least a YouTube release or something.
Yeah.
It ain't too late.
No,
it's not. No, it's not too late.
Not too late.
No.
He figured that out.
Yep. And we got to give a special shout out to D68A because it got one of your videos in the accompanying playlist this week. Thank you so much for all that you do, keeping us locked with some amazing.
Anybody know Atlanta Bliss out there? Tell them that, hey, say we heard stuff. He said,
Yeah.
he was a sampler or something.
And then Stone Freak says, well, Miss Margie gave me a CDR. And I'm assuming you're talking about Margie Cox. Are we talking about the same Margie? And
Tamara
then
Margie Cox?
yeah, there's only one Margie Cox. Tamara and the Scene. Speaking of Tamara and the Scene, Funkatopia just posted that they're going to be interviewing the one and only Jesse Johnson on
Tuesday.
the 23rd.
Yeah, that should be
Can't
good.
wait to see that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be amazing. Anytime we hear from Jesse.
Jesse always delivers.
Yes, Jesse always delivers. And Tanja says, if anyone's coming to Martha's Vineyard, hit me up, MVAAFF. I'm assuming that's a Martha's Vineyard annual, or I'm probably messing up on the double A's film festival. Correct me. So, and we got SMS 130. And all right, so yes, that's what I'm talking about. That's what's in the accompanying playlist. Thank you so much for the full Feline rehearsal. That's what's in the accompanying playlist for this week. Thank you again, D68A. And let's see. Yes, African American, and Jesse is everybody's dude. At least he should be, because he's amazing. And let's see. I really need to get my new glasses because I can't see. Let's see.
Shout out. We had a shout out from Robin went past real quick.
Okay, I did. Oh, there's a lot. I didn't see TD Edwards. I can't see because I need to get new glasses.
Yeah.
What's up, Steve Lee?
Good. Close to the noon time in Mississippi, folks. How y'all doing?
Cue to
Good.
Oregon.
What up?
It's time to cue to Oregon.
I'm hot, sweaty, but here. So let's get it on.
Oh,
Let's get it on. All right. So we're going to just dive into it because I think we're going to have a lot to talk about. And we're going to get our reading on. And we're going to start. Hopefully I have that correct. Let's see. I'm just doing too much lately. We're going to start with Sunday, July 15th, 1984 on page 357 if you have the expanded edition. If you don't have the expanded edition, then you need to look for Sunday, July 15th, 1984. And who wants to read about Nothing Compares to You? Who's going to take that on today? Because I'm going to read about Feline.
I'll go. It's kind of long, so just tell me where to stop and where to go.
Okay. We're going to read it.
Okay. All right. So
if we need to skip anything.
Okay. So nothing compares to you, basic tracking, right?
Yep.
All righty. And wait a minute, hold on. Brother Tudahl, we love you, baby. We love you. We love you. I'm just going. I'm gonna try to make it without it today. Let me see what I get. So Flying Cloud Drive Warehouse, Eden Prairie, Minnesota. Producer Prince, artist of family, engineer, the beloved Susan Rogers. This is a quote by Prince. I usually change directions with each record, which is a problem in some respects, but rewarding and fulfilling for me, end quote.
Okay, we're going to stop there just really quickly. I think this is one of the most important quotes from Prince ever for the fans. I usually change directions with each record. Not every 2 records or every 5 records, but each record, which is a problem, what he should have said for some folks.
Right.
But rewarding and fulfilling for me. And who is that me? Prince. So
it was a problem for Timberland. Timberland couldn't change when they were still in this style. Like, so couldn't switch up.
Yes. All right. Carry on. I think it's important, that quote.
Work resumed on Music for the Family. With only his engineer Susan Rogers in attendance, he recorded one of his most emotional tracks. Nothing Compares to You, Rogers. So this is a quote from Susan Rogers. I was amazed how beautiful it was. He took his notebook and he went off to the bedroom, wrote the lyrics very quickly, came back out and sang it, and I was very impressed with it. I was wondering if it was inspired somewhat by Sandy Scripione. That was his housekeeper who had worked for him for years, and she dealt with the personal side of his life. She was basically maintaining his house. Her father had just died very suddenly, and he never used to get very close to his employees. But I know he must have been feeling something for her. Obviously, they weren't in a romantic relationship, far from that. But I think that he was missing her, and I just sort of assumed that the lyric may have come from missing her, end quote. Mm. It's not a pain, help me baby track, Rogers explained in 2018. It's You're Gone and I Miss You, which is probably why he felt comfortable giving the song away to the family. He released his material based on what he wanted us to know about him. And wonderful as it is, he didn't want it to represent him. Jerome Benton has told a different and very personal story about the origin of the song. Quote, this is a Jerome quote, I was engaged to get married to a girl in Los Angeles. She wanted me to quit music. I was hurting when we broke up. I used to go to Prince with all my problems, so Prince wrote Nothing Compares to You about the way I felt, end quote. Still, others say it's a love song written for Prince's girlfriend, Susanna Melvin. Melvin has never been certain of the song's origin and has avoided too much speculation on it. In 2011, she was asked about this and replied, quote, maybe, yeah, but it's not like he said, babe, I wrote this song for you, end quote. Since then, some insiders have quietly suggested that Melvin was an important inspiration for the track. Regardless of the original motivation or more likely motivations, many people give this song great praise, including the man who sang on the album, St. Paul Peterson. So there's a St. Paul quote, it's a classic song. And I think a lot of the songwriting on their record may have some of Prince's best work, maybe some of Prince's best work. Honestly, the whole record was that important. We didn't know, and nor do you ever know, what song's going to take off. So you put the same amount of love into every single track. We knew that the meaning and the poetry behind it was special, end quote. That was still Paul Peterson. Although the album lists Peterson as the song's author, he had nothing to do with the writing. He said, quote, on the record, it said, I wrote Nothing Compares to You. I didn't write that song. I had to sing stuff with Prince that said you wrote it, but we didn't get paid for it. That's fine. I didn't expect to get paid for something I didn't do. I got paid $250 a week, end quote. Peterson continues, with Prince, you never really have creative control, reflected Peterson. David Z.
We're going to skip the next two paragraphs and go to by the end of today's session.
Okay. By the end of today's session, the song still contained Prince's vocals and no saxophone. This version featured a live drum beat and a basic Yamaha DX7, one of the favorite keyboards of my cousin who was in a local band in Jackson, Mississippi, but I digress. A part on the chords using patch number 21 by 1 and probably patch number 22. Is that Mariamba? Marimba, thank you. Oh, I couldn't see the beat. All right, Marimba, as well as another DX7 string patch, number 5 strings 2, a bass guitar, and a few guitar embellishments. Status. Nothing Compares to You, 4 minutes and 33 seconds, went through several mixes before it was released on the family's Lone album. Prince condensed the beginning of the song, removing almost all the instruments, including the drums, but preserving the moody DX7 synth tones. This sparse mix made the vocals much more heartfelt and haunting, showcasing Peterson and Melvin's intimate performance. Claire Fisher orchestra parts were eventually overdubbed to the track, most notably at the 1 minute and 34 second mark after the line, quote, it's been so long without you here, end quote. Within the next few days of this session, Eric Leeds added his saxophone to the track, or saxophone.
I love the saxophone.
The original recording of Nothing Compares to You, 4 minutes and 40 seconds, containing Prince's lead and Susanna's background vocals, and an edited version, 4 minutes and 12 seconds, were released posthumously on April 21st, 2018. A music video consisting of various rehearsals of Prince and the Revolution conducted in 1984 at the Flying Cloud Drive warehouse was issued to promote the song. The family never issued Nothing Compared to You as a single, and it went largely unnoticed outside of the fans of the family until 1990, when the cover was released by Irish singer Sinead O'Connor, scoring her a #1 hit in more than a dozen countries. In the United States, her version spent 4 weeks at the top of the Billboard's Top 100. Prince apparently enjoyed the track as well, releasing live versions of the song in '93 and 2002. It also became a staple on many of his tours. The debuting in concert in Minneapolis on April 30th, 1990. Nothing Compares to You was performed during his final full concert on April 14, 2016 at the Fox Theater in Atlanta, Georgia.
All right.
Can I add a comment to that?
Of course.
You know, it's interesting that, well, one, this is an example of.
Hold on, Ricky. Okay, there you go.
This is an example of like a Prince song that, you know, written in the moment and comes out and it's sort of kind of, it's just among other great songs, but doesn't necessarily stand out. And I come to mind is like I Feel For You, but then let another artist get that. And whatever the circumstances of that artist doing that particular Prince song at that time, it really shines, and you like the brilliance of it for whatever reason in that moment becomes, you know, just goes around the world. And it's funny because, you know, I think a couple weeks ago we said Prince was like, I wanted to get some of that Duran money or something like that, you know, to get the white person. You know, he was still right. Like it was just the other person that was going to be, you know, it was the white girl that was going to take that song and send it to the stratosphere. But the song was ready, you know, the idea and the seed was planted, and he knew like, yeah, this song could go for them, you know, put their face on it. And it still does that many years later. It just, so again, just kind of shows like these songs that he does, they're, you know, the genius and the relatability is there, but it's maybe it just needed to, you know, stir just a little bit, or maybe just need to marinate a little bit and then let things all line up right, and it blows, man. So, and he's done that before, so it's interesting to see him do it again, you know, and both songs are like signature songs, you know, become signature songs for that particular artist. So that's what I was going to add.
Okay.
I would just, and I agree with everything you said. The one thing I want to mention or discuss about the reading, and particularly from an artist or a creator's point, I think people who don't create, and I don't mean this in a mean way or an elitist way, but I think sometimes people who don't create art don't understand that a creation comes from two things: a real thing and our embellishment of the real thing. So a lot of times, like even I've written poems that started specifically about my wife, but then in the crafting of that poem, I pulled emotions from other places of other instances, because now not only am I writing a poem that may have been inspired by my wife, but I also want to write a damn good poem. And so what a lot of people who are not artists don't know is that emotions alone does not constitute art. When Michael Dean is creating a track, when Rick is writing a song, when Prof Duff is creating something visual, if all they are doing is using their emotions, you ain't got no art, you just got some emotions. It takes artistic discipline and artistic devices. And so that song could have been inspired by a lot of different things, could have been inspired by a lot of different people. But I think people lose the point when you just want to say this song is just about this. Because as artists, I can tell you that's rarely the case. And what happens a lot of times is that people will then misjudge a work of art or miscommit. I'll end on this point, which is so I want to connect Nothing Compares to You with Schoolyard. Because I felt so bad for the sister when she got interviewed by Andrea Swinson, because I felt bad for her because I never took that everything in that song was real.
Right.
But this sister, Carrie, unfortunately, she knows that most idiots are going to hear that song and say, oh, well, Carrie was getting high, giving up the boot in the car. Because that's what most idiots think, because they don't realize that when you write a song, 50% of it could be true, 95% of it could be true. But I'm sorry, people, whether it's a poem or a book or a song, it's rarely 100% true because art just doesn't work that way. So I felt so bad for Carrie because somebody should have been there to say, Carrie, I feel your pain, because there's some idiots who gonna believe that you did all the stuff in the poem and don't understand at the end of the day, it's just a song. And so regardless of who was the inspiration, I think the genius that's being missed is that Prince was able to pull from several real life instances. That's the genius of art, to pull from several real life instances and then combine that and use his artistic brilliance to create a work of art that resonates to everyone. I'll shut up.
Yeah, well, thank you for clarifying that, Brother Feline.
Hey, man.
Because I certainly thought at 85 that this song was certainly about vanity. And I'm sure a lot of people probably did too. But it wasn't until years later that I was like, you know, got some clarity on it. But that's even more clarity and that's. Thank you for bringing that to the forefront, brother.
And also, I just want to bring up this comment because Love Sexy said something similar and said that to me the lyrics was an ode to Denise Matthews, not where all these misdirection of the inspiration of the songs is coming from. So that was one comment. And another comment I wanted to post was, I think Chris Barnet's saying if Susanna Melvoin had sung lead on the Family's version, would it have blown up like Sinead O'Connor's version?
Interesting question.
And I would think it probably would not.
Right.
Yes, he is.
Not that it wouldn't be good, but just I don't think she carried the weight of Sinead O'Connor at that particular time. Like she would stand out.
Yeah.
International.
And I would also add two things. And I've said this, and I know I'm in the minority on this. I'm not a covers guy. In fact, I got an article that I said of the hundreds of thousands of millions of covers that's ever been done, only 32 of them are worth listening to again. So that shows you how much I am anti-covers. I hate covers. So, but I do add the Nothing Compares to You cover, and I talk about different things, but here's something that people don't understand. Art doesn't just become popular for how well crafted it is. You also have to look at the times in which something is released. And I think a lot of times we don't understand that sometimes a work of art can be before its time, sometimes a work of art can be after its time, and sometimes a work can be right on time. And also, it depends on if you're talking about cover art. Clearly, Paul Peterson and Susanna Melvoin are going to have one relationship to a song. Clearly, Sinead O'Connor had a different relationship to the song. So that's the other thing about covers, is that covers often become more impactful based on the person's relationship with the song. And I think that for whatever reason, Sinead O'Connor had a relationship with that song that resonated with other people. And that's just the bottom line. Is sometimes, like, we all know different versions of different covers. So we can all name one song with 4 different covers. And the 4 of us on this screen are going to gravitate to a different cover based on how the artist communicated that cover and how the communication of that cover relates to me. And I've said that while I go back and forth whether or not Rosie and Prince's version of the song is my favorite, or specifically Prince's version at the La Coruña show doing the nude tour. I go back and forth because I think those two, and I know I'm going to get into trouble with a lot of people in the chat, but I think those 2 versions are the only 2 versions that really match the emotion of Sinead O'Connor's version. I think that also what set Sinead O'Connor's version apart from the Family's version is that the Family's version is so monotone that people don't feel the passion in the way that they do with the Sinead O'Connor. And that's not me saying I don't like the Family's version. I just understand that things that are monotone don't tend to make a popular splash with things that are really emotive in the way that Sinead O'Connor's version does. I'll shut up.
It makes you think, and people are mentioning some of these great cover songs that have become signature songs for other people.
Exactly.
One of the big cover songs that I remember was a big hit, and I knew it was a cover song, but I really had no attachment to the original. This may sound funny. Is "Lean on Me"? You know, remember that song?
Yeah.
The big hit. What was that? Was that what was it?
Timex
Social Club. Timex Social Club.
Yeah, like that was. And when I think of that song, that's the version that I think of. Though I know there is the other versions of it, but I think it's a great song.
Yeah, Bill Withers.
Bill Withers, yes, and his is dope. Like it's Bill Withers, but for me, I identify. I think of that. Boom, it had the hip hop, the beat, and everything was of the day, and it was of my time. And I think these songs sort of do the same. I think Nothing Compares to You. When I think of the family version, it's to me a more soulful version, and I can understand how a more atmospheric is what I would think of her version. I can see how that would be more
right.
Some people just don't get down with that super soulful type of situation. So I just, but the song works both ways. The beauty of it, right? Like,
yeah, I agree. I want to be clear for people in the chat. I like all the versions. So I'm not saying that. I'm saying that if I'm ranking the versions, but those of us who knew that Nothing Compares to You was a cover in real time, I wasn't one of the people who was hating on it because it was somebody singing a Prince song. Right. I liked it, but I like the family's version. I like her version. I like Prince and Rosie's version, and I like Prince's version on the Locker Rooney's Fame show. I like them all. I was just speaking to why it blew up with Sinead O'Connor. Just speaking to why I think it blew up, and we can't deny that it did blow up with her crazy self. And that's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm gonna step back from the rest of that.
But so while you're here, there's a question for you from Andre. Where can we find your 32 songs cover list?
If you go to my website, psychedelicliterature.com, don't worry about spelling psychedelic. If you start typing it, Google will do the rest. But if you go to my website, psychedelicliterature.com, and go to my email, go to the contact, email me and I email it to you because I can't remember where it is online. So just email me and I'll send it to you.
And Nick has
Club Nouveau. Thank you, Nick Felton. Club Nouveau, not Timex Club.
Yeah, Club Nouveau.
Thank you, Club Nouveau. I always get them two. I'm sorry. I always get them two groups mixed up.
What's the brother's name? I think he was in both groups.
Oh yeah,
Jay King.
Jay King. Yeah.
Jay King. There we go. Jay King.
He don't get enough props, man.
They don't. They really don't.
So there's a lot of chat activity. So like my favorite version has always been and will always be the family's version, because I really love the orchestration from Claire Fisher. Mm-hmm. I love the like reading in the book just now that Prince removed all the instruments, from the beginning, so that we can kind of focus on St. Paul's delivery of that first line. It's been, I think that St. Paul really brought it, even though like, I know that David Z was coaching him to get him to sound more like, Prince's, vocal line, but I thought he did an amazing job, having to, go through vocal gymnastics to try to do that. So one thing that I did in the accompanying playlist this week is there's a gazillion versions of Nothing Compares to You. And in particular, like F Deluxe does a version when Prince passed. St. Paul did a version with like this, the string orchestra, which was really, really beautiful. There was a recent Annie Lennox version with Wendy and Lisa on the Grammys. And, obviously there are all of Prince's versions, the two that you named, like with Rosie. There's one on the Glam Slam show that we got in the Diamonds and Pearls Super Deluxe version. There's a version with Mary J. Blige. I mean, there's
I forgot about that one. That was the iHeartRadio, the iHeartRadio show.
Yeah, and that's in the accompanying playlist as well. So if you've been sleeping on the accompanying playlist, I think this is a week where you actually should look at the accompanying playlist. And actually, while we're talking about it, I am just going to pull it up if I can. Let's see if I can. Did I do what I was supposed to do today? Yes, I did, for a change. All right. So if we look at the playlist, well, first of all, we're starting off. I put Feline because I started off Feline because I love it, and then going back to my thanks to D68A, you can hear the Feline rehearsal alongside Erotic City. So, because we've been talking about Erotic City a lot, so if you want to hear that rehearsal from '84, you can in the chat. So we got the families version. And then we have the families version live from First Avenue from the only time they performed as the family at First Avenue. You hear that version. Then there's another version from BB King's in New York City from 2012, pre-Prince, pre-Prince transition. And then we have F Deluxe version from 2016. Post Prince, and then we have the official music video that the state released with a lot of the rehearsal footage that Duane wrote about in the book. Then you have the Nothing Compares to You from Live at Glam Slam from the '92 show in the box set. Then there's a Live at Paisley Park from 1999. There's the one with Mary J. Blige. And then I also included the Annie Lennox one, even though I'm not a fan of that particular performance, but just because it was recently done. And then I also included this reaction to Nothing Compares to You, the family version, because this person, and this was recorded a year ago, thinks that Sinead O'Connor's version was the original version. But then if you and I highly recommend that everyone. I'm not mad at that, but in watching that just lets me know that we have a lot of work to do, to make sure that that Prince gets the credit that he deserves for the songs that he actually wrote, and that he actually should be in the Songwriters Hall of Fame, which he is not. So I think it's important that we, keep the facts out there, because that's obviously that was a really huge song for Sinead. And yeah, so.
Let me ask a question to everybody here. So who would have known that song would have been the one that becomes legend, right? Years later. For you guys in the room here and in chat, if it was up to you, which song on the album, the family's album, would have been the song that would have been the legendary song? Maybe you may still pick the same one, but I'm just curious, like if you had a song that you thought, like me personally, as much as I like that song when the album came out in real time, I never would have picked that as like, that's the one song from this album that, I play all the time. I would have done something like, I don't know.
River Run Dry?
River Runs Dry or something. Like, I would be like, yeah, that would be the boom, boom, boom. But I mean, I'm curious, did you guys what was your favorite off of that you would have wished could have been the song?
Ladies first, D'Angelo.
Oh, well, for me, it actually, I thought there were, well, for me, and how can I say this? My tastes are usually the antithesis of what popular tastes are. Mm-hmm. But for me, Screams of Passion was the correct lead single for me, but not for the masses. So when I heard, hearing Screams of Passion for the first time, the thing that stood out to me the most was Claire Fisher's orchestration. Mm-hmm. And it's like one of those, it's like when you fall in love for the first time, like I immediately fell in love with Claire Fisher's orchestration. I had never heard anything so beautiful. And I was just mesmerized. And then I don't know if you guys remember the 12-inch of Screams of Passion with the extended version with most strings. I was just like on cloud 9. Now, going back to Nothing Compares to You, I always loved it on the Family's album. Like when I first heard it, I thought it was great, but I didn't know that it would become the phenomenon that it has become. So it's really interesting, like when that happens. I'll be honest, the same thing. I never thought that Kiss, because of my taste, I never understood how Kiss got so huge. Like that was like a huge single for Prince, and it just didn't translate to me. So I just really, when those kinds of things would happen, I just realized that my taste did not align with the masses.
All right.
I'll agree. I'm usually like that too. Usually the restaurant I like closes. I'm the only one going to that restaurant. And I'll give a quick example. Does anybody remember the R&B group Next that came out of Minneapolis?
Yeah.
I was at the Minneapolis Black Music Awards when they debuted. They had just signed a deal, and they did their coming out show at the Minneapolis Black Music Awards. I was there when they did their set. When they got off, and I said this to myself. I didn't say this about. I said to myself, I said, they ain't gonna sell a record. By the time I got home, they was the number one R&B group in the country. So that lets you know how good I am at picking hits. So saying that to say, I actually, first time I heard the Screams of Passion, I don't know if I was right about this, but the first time I heard that album, I said to myself, this is some ish that I like, but it ain't gonna sell a lot. Like I just knew that the way music was moving. Remember, hip hop is bubbling, like 86, 87, hip hop is starting to bubble. Things are kind of changed. New Jack Swing is kind of, not there, but you can look over the horizons. So I could already see with the release of Screams of Passion that music was shifting so drastically that and true enough, there was nobody around me who was digging the Family's album. So I knew almost that record was dead in the water simply because people. So I can only say that I loved all of the tracks, and I was probably a high fashion mutiny guy. Like that's because I'm a funk first. So high fashion mutiny was in my spot, but I knew that high fashion mutiny wasn't gonna see it. And so I was surprised. So fast forward to Sinead O'Connor. When I heard it, my first thought was, that's cute. Like that's literally what I thought was, that's cute. And what a week or so later, it is the number one song in half the world. And I was just laughing. Like I laughed the whole time all through the summer that I had no idea that this song off an album that I love, but it just so to say somehow to say, I didn't think there was a song on there that would resonate in the way that Nothing Compares to You, simply because I loved it, but music had changed so much. I'll shut up.
Well, to agree with everybody, I always thought the song was a gem. Like I used to brag about it to people, the Family's album used to be the measuring rod for your Prince fandom. Back in the fall '85, early '86, but I didn't think it was going to be that big. I thought it was a great ballad. I thought it was a solid ballad, worthy of some longevity. That if people heard it, that they would dig it. I kind of got to agree with C. Lee. The funk in me wanted, was more so like high fashion and mutiny. Like those stood out to me first. I thought over time, like D'Angelo, like Screams of Passion was just like artistically probably the strongest song on it. Just artistically, like lyrically and musically, about what he was saying and what he did musically. I thought that was the artistic chess move. I know for that one. I thought the instrumentals were different in terms of like that's a new direction, but I knew those weren't going to go or do anything in terms of probably having the length, maybe going far. Maybe Screams of Passion, just simply because it would have took people a little longer to get on board with it. Because even now, like when say you hear it, it's still an artistic song. I mean, it's still like when you listen to it, it's still a gamble. Like wow, like he said, he used these metaphors and he used this instrumentation. You still don't you don't find a person doing a lead off single with an orchestra section. And then to my dismay, I hate that they did this, but they took all the bass tracks out.
Mm-hmm.
So like when you listen to the album, there's no bass tracks on none of the album. Paul Peterson has said that the bass tracks are killer on the album, but they took all the bass tracks out. So
Right.
there again, there's another artistic gamble. But I think in terms of getting the attention of people, I think High Fashion and Mutiny were probably the best. But in terms of just artistic growth, taking a chance, yeah, Screams of Passion was probably my one. Now closing that to say, I think Nothing Compares to You was a solid ballad filler. Like every album has to have a solid ballad, and that was a solid ballad. Just that solid ballad just lived a little longer. It turned out to be the longevity of the album. Who knew?
Yeah.
That's my piece on it.
This album, I feel like all the ingredients were there. I just think the thing that why it just sort of goes unnoticed at the time, the swag of it, like you said, the bass was pulled. I feel like if this would have been a Christopher Tracy side project and he just did it as like, I'm gonna just do this as Christopher Tracy character and maybe this would be lead into the movie, album would have blew. Like because it would have been Prince, doing, because when he performed them songs, somebody said when he, the parade tour, they was killing them. Like you were like, okay, yeah. And I just think like the way it was presented, though the songs are dope, I don't know if the visual and just you don't know who these people are. It's like, okay, this sounds like some light Prince, keeping it moving. But if it would have been Morris and them, or like I said, it would have blew. I think it would have blew even harder because the songs are dope. Like it's all there. I just don't think that we don't know who these people are, and you don't see much of them. And I don't think, and it's like we didn't know it now, but when you do listen to the other versions of these tracks, they're smoking, like they're banging, like the drums and all, all of the stuff is there. But he just made a choice that he wanted to do what he wanted to do. I can respect that.
Rehearsal with the revolution of these songs is killer.
Yeah. So it's all there though. I think it's all there. The songs
and I'll just add, because I'm glad that Karan put in about the Detroit show, going back like in real time when they did they showed Under the Cherry Moon in Sheridan, Wyoming. I gotta make sure I say Sheridan, Wyoming, because my wife called it something else because she didn't appreciate that the movie was shown there. So I just let you use your imagination for what word my wife substituted for Sheridan. But I remember in real time. I remember that was the party on MTV. I remember thinking like, why is he performing like that song? Like I was like, and I was trying to ask myself, was that the first time he had performed? Well, no, it wasn't, because he had performed. Well, no, because technically, Erotic City was his song. And had he performed Love Bizarre before that MTV '86 show? Because I'm trying to see, was that the first time Prince performed songs by his other side bands on that Sheridan Wyoming show? Like, did we have on record him perform?
He had probably done Love Bizarre, I know, before, but we didn't get the actual video.
Okay.
Until later.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So, but
might have been right around the same time, because that's '86 you're speaking of about.
Yeah. When was that Sheila E. performance? Was that after or before
Sheila
this?
E. might have been early '86.
Yeah, that was after. So Sheila E. was when they were on full-on tour. Because remember, the Sheridan Wyoming show was before the movie had come out, so they hadn't even gone on tour yet.
But I would imagine that it was beforehand.
No. Actually,
to promote that.
The Detroit show is before this.
Yeah.
They play the video of Another Lover in Your Head.
Okay, so that's right, because Detroit, that was that summer. That was for his birthday. You're right. And the movie came out kind of that fall, later in the summer. You're absolutely right. You're right. So you're right.
So the one thing that I noticed in the chat, I can't keep up with the chat. There's so much action going on, and we so appreciate you, and we so love that you're in this conversation with us. But Theo hasn't listened to the family all the way through. So Theo, you gotta do that. You gotta listen to the entire album all the way through if you can, in one sitting with headphones. just chilling out, just really intentionally listening. It is an amazing experience. So if all of you out there haven't done that, you need to do that. So
And then after you do that, watch the family's performance on YouTube at First Avenue, their one and only performance.
Yeah, that's an excellent concert.
Of
Yeah.
said songs.
Yes, and that is in the accompanying playlist, so you can find it. You don't even have to look for it. And all right, so let's move on because we're going to come back to Nothing Compares to You because we're going to do some more reading on that. But the next reading that we have, let's see what Dr. Claus saying. Fast forward a couple years and you see Jerome and Jellybean hanging with Janet in those early Control videos. The Prince cinematic, is it PCU was spreading?
Janet Jackson.
The PCU, I like that. Prince Cinematic Universe.
Yeah. And I wanted to respond to something you said. Well, Michael, you triggered something in my head that I had never really thought about when you were commenting on just like, for me, the family, they were inexperienced in terms of, you know, St. Paul and Susanna being leads in terms. So like when Prince would perform those songs, he was like in the peak of his swag. Like he was in Christopher Tracy mode. So when he performed those songs, he commanded the stage. I mean, he always commanded the stage, but there was like this extra, I can't explain it. Do you know what I'm talking about? There was like this extra. And I think also he was probably upset that, you know, everybody was kind of leaving him, you know, and so like, you know, chopping trees, you know, like that's right when he was about to go into like the punk of the month and chopping trees, and he was,
You got to chop that down, make a wooden leg out of it. Chop again.
Yes. It was, and you know, like, wow, that might be mean to the people he was directing that to. At the same time, it was very, I don't know, it was just like he was so in his element when he was doing that kind of thing.
He was pissed.
Yeah.
Well, because the song is a diss track, it starts from that. Like that's the whole point of it. That's what I'm saying. So that's lost on the family. Like you don't get, you know. It's like again, it'd be like any other top rapper or something who's known for a particular style, and their pen game is ridiculous and their flow is ridiculous. But then you give it to the rapper who ain't never had an album before, and we don't know who they are. He's trying to match the flow and integrity of, you know, this other guy. It's just, there's going to be something that's lost in it. You know what I'm saying?
Like
that's no disrespect to St. Paul.
No, not at all.
It started out one way. It started out with one inspiration, went another way.
Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. Let's see. Another thing that came up in the chat way back that I think would be interesting is, for me, because I agree with this, High Fashion and Mutiny did sound like time songs. Just in terms of not necessarily the lyrics, but just the instrumentation. And so in some ways, especially when they were performed live, and especially when they were performed live by Prince, they really had that feel. Now, one of the songs that kept coming up in the chat, which I was kind of surprised by, was Desire. So a lot of people brought up Desire.
Yeah.
As, you know, being that
drums and Prince singing. That's incredible.
Yeah, it really was.
Underrated ballad on the album.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I like to say, since that's one of my favorite Prince shows just of all time, not necessarily tour, but just a particular show, is that 86 Boston show. That 86 Boston show, because I go back and forth between the Detroit birthday show, but that 86 Boston show where Prince and the band and Jerome are just on fire. So if you guys have not heard the 86 Boston show, like literally for the longest, that show was my favorite show right after Signing the Times Live. Like I know that probably for 10 years straight, I listened to that show once a week for 10 years straight. So if you have not seen the 86 Boston show, if you have not heard the 86 Boston show, please go get that show. And it's not again, I love the birthday show. I love the complete birthday show, but because a lot of people don't understand that there are different versions of the birthday show that's not complete because some of those versions don't have soft and wet. So if you have the live or the video version of the birthday show, make sure you have the one with soft and wet because I think the Japanese television, they cut that one for time. And so that didn't get shown on the television show. So if that birthday show, but please check out. And I want to add one other thing about that Boston show because I want to write an article about this, but I keep forgetting to come back to it.
Do you mean Boston or Detroit?
No, Boston, Massachusetts, 96, 96 Boston show. Yeah, so check out the 86 Boston show. It is phenomenal. And there's something, and I want to talk about that Boston show, something else I want to write about. At the end of the Boston show, it basically kind of ends because the crowd gets too rowdy and Prince keeps telling the people, go back because you're crushing somebody at the front of the stage. Here's why that's important. And I was trying to go through my notes quickly. I've actually documented 4 shows where Prince has had to do crowd control. One was that Boston show. The other, I think, is the DNA show in San Francisco. I think he had to do crowd control because the crowd's getting a little rowdy. And I think that's the show, either that one or the Boston show, he says, you didn't get all dressed up to come out here and get messed up. And there are 2 other shows. And I always wanted to write, because the reason I thought that was interesting is because here you have in 86, from 86 to 93, Prince has had to do crowd control to stop the crowd from getting too rowdy. Yet by 87 to 88, it's the hip hop shows that was getting the getting known for, we don't want these rowdy shows happening. And so I just found it interesting that on 4 occasions, a Prince show, Prince had to himself, and you can like hear him in the audio saying, hey, back up, the little girl down front is getting crushed. And Jerome actually comes out toward the end of that Boston show and says, hey, if y'all don't calm down, we not gonna come back out. So I just always, so along with it being a great show, there's something I always wanted to write about, the notion that these 4 things that we document happened at a Prince show, yet he didn't get the pushback of these rowdy, unsafe shows in the way hip-hop shows just a year later got that kind of reputation. That's it.
For historical purposes, Boston's the same place James Brown had to calm the crowd down.
Yep.
King, right? So,
yep.
So that's interesting. That,
Boston are lit.
I'm about to say any Boston people out there?
So Celie, I kind of want to go back to the 86 Boston show just really quickly. So what set it apart from the other 86 performances for you?
The medley of Mutiny, DMSR, you know that little medley. Let me pull it up right quick. There's a medley of, got it right here. So the medley, when he gets to Controversy, Mutiny, how much is that? Dog in the Window, Lady Cab Driver, Automatic, DMSR, and then goes into Dance Electric. You talk about going from 8 to 80 in 2 seconds. Like that part of that show. Again, I'll give the rundown again. It is the how much, Mutiny, how much is that? Dog in the Window, Lady Cab Driver, AT-O-Matic, DMSR, and then Dance Electric. It is just it's a monster. Like it is for me. When you compare that even to the because the only thing that compares to that is the way they rock DMSR in the birthday show. But even that is second to me than the Boston show. That run right there, it is that band. If anybody wants to talk about the Revolution as a tight band, now of course by that time you got the Counter Revolution, so it's more people in the band. Let's be clear. But if you just want to talk about the Revolution as a tight band, that, let me count how many minutes that is, right? That, let's say, that 3 to 4 minutes was 7 counting Dance Electric. That 7 minutes is the Revolution probably being as good as they ever were. So I would say that's what sets it apart. I would say that 7-minute run of that show, and I put that up against Possessed and
show?
Yes. I put that 7 minutes up against Possessed. Give me the song again, Possessed and
Irresistible B?
Irresistible B, yeah. Because Irresistible B and Possessed for me, for the longest was the Revolution at they apex, like this a groove. I think those 7 minutes from the Boston show, for me, is a little bit higher than that. I'll shut up.
All right, so everybody, we got our homework for the week. In addition to the reading, we need to listen to this Boston 1986 show so we can talk about it.
Is there a link for that or something? Is it on YouTube or?
We'll see. I'm sure it is. Everything's there. Yeah. Yep. All right, so let's get to reading because we still got a lot of reading to do. And next up is Feline from Monday, July. And I'm going to take off my glasses and read. Ricky, whenever you adjust your headset, it's like really loud. So if you don't mind muting yourself when you do that, that'd be really fantastic. Thank you. You are the best. All right. Monday, July 16th, 1984. Feline, basic tracking, no vocals, Flying Cloud Drive, Warehouse, Eden Prairie, Minnesota. Producer, Prince, artist, and family engineer, Susan Rogers. This is a quote from Eric Liegh. We did another instrumental that did not go on the album. It was very hard, aggressive, just ruckus, hard funk instrumental thing that to this day is one of my favorite things we ever did. And he's talking about Feline, and which is kind of surprising, hearing that from Eric Liegh. So, it must be a killer track. Because it is. All right. So Prince began working on a song called Feline. Although Prince recorded most of the instruments, he invited Bobby Z and Jelly Bean Johnson to overdub some tom-toms on the track and sent for Eric Liegh to add some sax. He was still finishing up recording it, and it was like watching a man possessed because he was deep into this, remember Liegh. It was really great to just sit back and watch someone get lost in something like this. It was a great, great track. At that point, he just finished it, and he said, "Here, you got it." I wish I could have seen that interchange of Prince telling Eric, "Here, you got it." And I was really surprised because I figured that this would be just a continuation of what we'd done, where we'd sit there and basically come up with something. He looked at me and said, "You got it." So I said, "Well, okay." So I came up with a few lines, and he sat back for a minute, just kind of curious to see where I'd go with it on my own. And after about 15 or 20 minutes, he said, "You've got it." And he left, which just let me take it and just roll with it, which I did. And apparently he really dug the vinyl results. I love vinyl instead of final result. The song never made the album because I think it was just too aggressive. During a future undocumented session, we're going to stop here real quick. Do you guys agree with that? Do you think that Feline would not have fit on the album in its current incarnation?
I actually thought the Feline. I think the family was really a band that stretched out in ways, and I like the fact that the family stretched out in ways. So I think Feline would have been a really nice fit for that album, just because they didn't really have what's what I want to use. They were kind of creating their persona on the fly, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And I think that they really, I hate this term, but it's one I'll use, like gumbo. They really had this kind of gumbo thing where it was rooted in what Prince was, but he was really leaning on a lot of different things. So I guess I'll say I wouldn't have been surprised or mad if Feline would have been on. I'll just put it that way.
Yeah, yes, I think it would have. I don't know if it could have been an album closer, because I think Desire as an album closer is great. So where it would have fit in the track listing, like do you put another instrumental to Before Nothing Compares to You with another instrumental after Nothing Compares to You? That probably would have been the only place it could have fit. Or maybe because that transition from High Fashion to Mutiny just works. You can't interrupt that transition. But maybe as a B-side or something, I think it would have worked. I mean, I gotta agree with C. Lee. Like they were kind of creating their like persona, so they already had 2 instrumentals. A third one wasn't gonna hurt.
I could see it as a B-side. To me.
And
Now,
I mean,
I was just gonna say real quick. I forgot that Yes and Susanna's Pajamas is on this album. Like those are actually my favorite tracks off of the record. Like I jammed those back when it came out heavy. Wasn't Susanna's Pajamas like on the 45 or something? It was on the other side of, maybe it was High Fashion
or something like that.
And I fell in love with that. I was just like, what is this? And it was an early sort of indication of Madhouse, but the Feline, I could see it as a B-side.
And that's the point I was gonna raise, and Brother Bernay beat me to it. I don't see Feline as an instrumental because of St. Paul's vocals. Because remember, I think that's the one where St. Paul was uncomfortable saying, "Don't you want to be my bleep?" Right? And so and maybe that's why I don't hear Feline as an instrumental, because I love St. Paul's vocals as much as I love the music, so it never came across to me as an instrumental. It just slammed. But I get that he was uncomfortable. I mean, it's that's if you're just not comfortable using those words and addressing women in that way, even in a playful tone. And I also wanted to give him props. Hey, I give you props for saying I'm not comfortable with doing this. This is not, and I think that kind of rap got refashioned for C. Lee, right? She kind of took it and did it kind of a different way. So anyway, but I said so. Yeah, so I don't see it as an instrumental simply because Paul's vocals. It's funny that he was uncomfortable singing it, yet I love what he did on it. So that's the irony of you never know what's gonna hit, right? It's the old thing where people don't know that LL Cool J hated going back to Cali. Like the reason it's that way, because he was literally in the studio. But I don't think so. Was him saying, "I don't think this is a good song," and it literally became a hit. That's one of the few hip hop things I know, by the way. That I give you one other song that's like that, which is gonna show y'all how old I am. The song "Kung Fu Fighting," everybody was Kung Fu Fighting.
Yeah.
The dude who sung that song said in the studio, I said, "This is the dumbest damn song I have ever sung in my life," and it became a 70s classic. So once again, you never know what will hit. Though I'm like him. I don't know if they could have got me to sing a song Kung Fu Fight. But it was Bruce Lee. It was the 70s. Black folks was into that karate. So again, we talk about the times often dictate what songs become hits. All right, I'll shut up.
I mean, another classic is Tina Turner's "What's Love Got to Do with It." She hated the song. She didn't like the song.
She gave the Grammy away.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah.
What's the guy's name? Propped up, and she gave a Grammy to her manager.
Yeah. I can't remember what his name was, but yeah. So that's another example of that. I was gonna say something, but I can't remember. Yeah. So in terms of Karan's comment, the Feline Prince's version is actually in the accompanying playlist for the week, and let's see.
Everybody wants gone.
Somebody look at Ali's quote. Somebody put up Ali's quote. There you go. Flash this lightning.
Okay, so we're gonna continue with our reading on page 360. During a undocumented session, Prince would add his own guide vocals to the track. These would eventually be replaced by Peterson. Prince would also make some changes to the mix, including replacing the loud electronic snare clap on the 2 and the 4 with what sounds like a hard hit hi-hat, making the vocal version less frantic and edgy. Prince would also add a rap around the 250 mark, creating the template for Peterson to copy, even though the lyrics didn't sit well with Peterson. I did record vocals for Feline and could actually sing rap that song to this day. I thought it was super funky, raw, and a little overly sexual for what I would have done. Mama P wouldn't have approved, Mama Peterson. And one thing I remember what I wanted to say, going back to Feline on the album, And I might make a controversial statement, but that's okay. I always thought that High Fashion and Mutiny were redundant on the family record. I always thought it should have been one or the other, just in terms of vibe. So, like for me, I would have wanted one of those to be like a B-side. And then, and to be honest, it probably like the song I would want to stay is High Fashion as opposed to Mutiny, and put Feline on there just because Feline has a different vibe to it. For me, I mean, it's in the same zone, but it's slightly different. So, Liegh, I feel like you're ready to respond.
I'm laughing because in my head that I know that your head would explode if the third song would have been Movie Star. Like you'd have lost your mind. It would have been High Fashion, Movie Star. You'd have fell out dead. That's why I'm laughing, because I get what you're saying. That for the groove, I know you're dead on if you're talking about variety of music. I agree with you 100%. The only reason is that I just love both of them grooves so much that I don't care about the redundancy. It's kind of because like remember how you talked about like that you like a lot of Prince live stuff because you can get into the groove.
Yeah,
you'll just listen to that groove.
Yeah.
That's what High Fashion and Mutiny is for me. It's an extended groove where that's my licking stick, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
High Fashion and Mutiny is my licking stick.
That I love. Yeah, I'm with you because that's mine from JP and others. There's a gazillion more.
So
all right.
Thank God you put Movie Star in there, or Prop Duff wouldn't be alive today.
But Movie Star with St. Paul doing it?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Okay, you're right.
No, it wouldn't have.
Right.
But if we would have went back to when we were talking earlier about the quantum version of Christopher Tracy doing High Fashion, Mutiny, and Movie Star,
It'd
then
been
that would have been hidden. All right. So I'm going to go to the first paragraph on page 361. The lyrics in question involve the size of Peterson's area, given a woman knockout pills and having sex with 100 different women. The song itself is one of the funkiest and most aggressive tracks Prince recorded for the family, but the over-the-top rap at the end made the song stand out from the rest of the project, so it's understandable that it didn't make the final cut. Although Prince would add elements of the rap to Baby I'm a Star during rehearsals for the upcoming tour, which I've said this a gazillion times, but the rehearsals for Baby I'm a Star, I could listen to those 24/7, 365 days of the year and would never get tired of the Baby I'm a Star rehearsals. Okay, compared to the subtle sensuality of most of the album, the raw and unrefined sexual bravado of Christopher Tracy, I'm just kidding, of Feline, made it almost impossible to include it on the record. Prince never talked to me about what the plan was for that song, explained St. Paul. He and I didn't communicate on that level. That was his baby, so I can't say for sure. And according to David Z, it was pretty much Prince's choice. He just said, these are the songs we're going to do, and that was it. We were experimenting the whole time we were doing it. Everything about it was an experiment. Because of this, Prince gave Jelly Bean Johnson a chance to break out of his routine behind the drums. And this is Jelly Bean. He even let me play a little backwards guitar on the end of it. Yeah, backwards guitar. You play it and then you flip the tape. He does this. He did it all the time. And he did the same to me too. Man, I had this little cheesy solo. He just said, play on the end of this, just kind of as a joke. And it actually sounded pretty good. But when I think back, it might not have fit with what we had on there. But yeah, it was funky. I this paraphrasing there. Status. Both the instrumental version, 4 minutes and 11 minutes, and the vocal version, 11 seconds. And the vocal version, 3 minutes and 55 seconds of Feline remain unreleased. The track was worked on again in February 1985 by Prince without the St. Paul rap and given to Sheila E. for consideration for her second album. Several lines from the Feline rap are also used in the song Holly Rock, recorded and released by Sheila E. in 1985. Feline was also taken out of the vault and revisited for a Madhouse project by Eric Liegh. The song didn't make it onto that album either, leaving it as one of the more impressive and elusive outtakes from Prince's vault. When the family reformed almost 3 decades later as F Deluxe, Prince refused to allow them to use the band's original name. I'm going to say that one more time for those of us who might be new to the Prince universe. Prince refused to allow the family to use the band's original name, so they had to rechristen themselves as F Deluxe. Peterson occasionally sang a few lines from Feline during Mutiny. There is a possibility that Feline was recorded on Thursday, July 19th, or Friday, July 20th. So I want to know what you guys had wanted Feline to come out as a Sheila track or a Madhouse track, or neither.
Madhouse.
Neither. I say neither.
I say neither.
Madhouse. I'm gonna go
Hey,
with
Madhouse.
why?
Because it was already instrumental. I think he was kind of creating in that vein or sowing seeds for what would become Madhouse with Yes and Susanna's Pajamas. I think other than the instrumentation, maybe I'm sure it had bass, drum, keys. So, and then saxophone, of course, Eric Liegh, you would have had to swap the guitar out. And maybe because it was maybe a guitar heavy track, they may have been like, it can't be a Madhouse track. So they took it out just for that reason. And maybe it just didn't have the same oomph with the guitar, say, removed. But if they could have worked it to be a Madhouse track, I think that would have been cool to be but then like, what do you number it? It's like a numbered song, it's like a number thing. So like you can't keep it the same title. You have to give it a number.
8 1/3 or something.
Yeah. yeah, definitely. I mean, it could have worked, like say 7 3/4, or I mean, it definitely sounds like it could have worked on 16 more so than 8.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So it could have been a decent B-side for 16, or just could have been like you substitute one of those tracks for it, but it definitely could have worked.
So I agree with you guys on Sheila. But what's your reasoning why it wouldn't have worked for Sheila?
I'm just because I got Paul's vocals in my head, and I like the raunchiness of it, and so it's probably just because I got Paul's vocals in my head. I think that's the only reason why. If I heard Sheila's vocals, I could probably go, but I just in my head trying to imagine Sheila's vocals, I can't, for whatever reason, do the overlay. And so for me, it's either a Christopher Tracy or a St. Paul song in my head because of how I've heard it. And maybe if I could hear what Sheila was doing, I would probably say maybe. But to me, it's one of those that, I think it was someone said earlier, I wish it could have been a B-side to a family record, which also makes me now really, it's funny, today makes me really sad that we didn't get more of the family. Like I'm remembering now how much I did like that record in real time. I knew that nobody else liked it, but I'm remembering now I played that record, I played that record all of the time in real time.
Yep.
And now really sad that Prince just got so busy. You're making a movie, you got people pulling from you, and that he just never learned to delegate. And again, we have to realize that sometimes, your hubris, that your best characteristics can also be your worst characteristic, right? That Prince's best characteristic is that he did everything. His worst characteristic is he did everything. And because he did everything, something was just going to fall through the tracks. And I think the family, the more I think about it, and I think this is the great thing about you doing this book, this book club, Prof. Duff, and this book is we're really getting to remember in real time and thinking about the possibility of the what could be. And now just thinking about Feline. If Feline is a B-side, that means there's more promotion to the family. If Feline is a B-side, that means the family is touring, at least doing TV promotions. So the more I think about it, I do now wish that this could have been a family song, simply for the fact that meant that we could have gotten more from the family. I'll shut up.
Well, you started off by saying that a lot of people didn't like this record. It was that a lot of people didn't know about this record.
Mhm.
I think the Prince fam obviously knew about it, you know, the hardcores, but it just didn't get the promotion that it deserved for probably various reasons. And then, go ahead.
I'm saying I agree, but I guess my question would be, and I guess we'd have to see how long it was actually played by BET, because I remember Screams of Passion was on BET. And I wonder, in relation to the video being on BET, what were the record sales in relation to the video? Like, if we could look at, say, Screams of Passion debuts on this day, and say a 3-month period of Screams of Passion being played on that day, how many people saw the video on BET and thought, oh, that's something I may want to go pick out, if that makes sense?
No, that actually makes a lot of sense. And the other thing, go ahead, Ricky.
No. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And the other thing I wanted to say is that Prince was kind of delegating a little bit with having David Z doing some of the production for not only the family, but also Jill Jones. Like
Yep.
basically David Z did the same thing he did with the family record for the Jill Jones record in terms of getting those tracks finished and, you know, produced with those particular artists. So he was trying, but I think, you know, especially thinking about the symposium that's coming up and just thinking about that particular era, Prince was always spinning and juggling so many different plates and balls in the air. It's really pretty insane how many things he had going on at the same time. And I think in some instances, you know, projects just didn't get the attention that they really needed from him, unfortunately, because he was just stretched really thin by this point.
You know, fall '85. So one of the biggest releases of hip hop with Dougie Fresh in the show.
Yeah.
You know, and that was massive. Like
Monster.
no video, no anything. And so, like C. Lee said earlier, music, you could see music was changing. And not to mention there was some traffic, like Minneapolis sound wise in '85. Like Jesse had Tomorrow in the Scene, Jam and Lewis still had Sherelle and Alexander O'Neal. So, you know, Janet was on the cusp of coming out. So like, but fall '85 saw like the show was a big, massive record for about at least a good 2.5-3 months.
Yep.
Remember people banging that from August to maybe November. And I think LL had just come out. Crush Groove was out. Like, you know, so hip hop was doing its thing, and so you kind of got to ask yourself, you know, like, where does this band with people wearing pajamas fit? Like, where do they? You know, I mean, because that's what the visual was. Like, where do they fit? And if you aren't a Prince fan, what's the appealing nature that makes you want to go and get that record? Like, what about them appeals to you? You know, because for a lot of people, it was Prince's new group, and we had heard about him, so we were buying off of that relationship. But for new listeners, or for listeners who weren't that heavy into the Prince Kingdom thing, you know, what was it about them that appealed? So it kind of became a hard sell once you get past the fans buying it.
Right.
To just the everyday average, you know, record consumer or music listener, like, you know, like, what is it about this group that I'm gonna like or that I should like? And even though, like, you know, I mean, like Mike says, like, you know, so you put on River Run Dry, you know, that doom 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 doom, you know, like, I remember brothers digging that tune, you know what I'm saying, because of the bass drum part, you know, and how the beat went. But again, you know, things were changing, and they kind of just got, I think with more promotion, I think they could have navigated the change. I think it would have been great. I think lack of promotion failed them. You know, because they had strong songs, and then I think had those songs been like released, had maybe another video been done, had an appearance on video souls, say with Donnie Simpson or something. Maybe that could have, I mean, at least kept them R&B wise stable. You know what I'm saying? I mean, for another record, I don't know if they didn't have a tune. Well, they had a tune that was for Duran Duran money that we found out later. But in fall 85, I don't know if they had that tune that was MTV crossover worthy. But they had enough to sustain themselves R&B wise, and to be considered for another go round. And so I think the motion just failed them.
Too, you can't forget that, the visual of Jerome being in the group in the video was a strong thing, because that was the only thing we knew.
Right.
We knew who Jerome was. We knew that he meant the time. He was in the movie. That was the only recognizable thing. I mean, I remember watching that video, like, oh, that's Jerome. Like, I'm paying attention to this, because I have no idea. I didn't know who St. Paul was. I didn't even know St. Paul was the same dude that was in the time prior, because I didn't even know who those other people were. But yeah, Jerome was the thing. And like you said, Jelly Bean, I knew, the other that brother right there. Okay. But other than that, there was nothing to identify with. And I didn't necessarily know it was a Prince project, though. I mean, listening to it, it reminded me of Prince. And it wasn't until I got the record, I'm like, oh, wait, I think Prince is doing this. But I was going to say this album is one that is an easy thing right now to be like, put this record out and then another disc of this is what Prince's version of this would have said. This is why this album is important, right? It's really just not to put it as a stepping stone, but it is a transition for, the next family sort of project would have been Parade, right? I mean, it was really just about Prince's artistry and directions he was going at the time. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was only, to me, it's only just supposed to be an outlet for Prince to put more music out, as opposed to it to be its own group. There's no way that he was going to allow that, in my mind, to be bigger than Kiss and whatever he was about to do. No matter how good that music was. Like,
good point.
I don't think he would. I mean, he wasn't going to allow the time to do that, so sure he wasn't going to allow. But I could see where he was just like, I'm about to go get this money over here, white boy on the cover, and I'm gonna get back. But I don't think he was ever to be like, yeah, I'm gonna be serious with this. And he did it and moved on. I'm on to the next thing. So to me, like, it did what it was supposed to do.
There you go. The snake. Oh, damn, I hurt my back. My old ass need to sit down somewhere. and I do want to revisit that. I'm glad you said that, Brother Wyatt, because it cannot be, you cannot under whatever, what a monster the show was. On my street, I think every house in my street had that album. Like you said, there was no radio, there was no video. That the show was a seismic shift in music. And so what is, like you said, where does the family fit in this seismic shift in music that we all loved, we all enjoyed, but where was it going to be? And now, we can all wish that maybe they would have fought harder for it, right? We could always say, but also like what Brother Ali said earlier about the industry just not having the system to promote that much music, right? That I think that becomes the other thing about milking albums in a way that, I've often gone back and forth where, of course, I'm on Prince's side that you should release as much music as you can. But it's not that I don't understand Warner Brothers' argument of this is the system by which we make as much money as possible. And so I guess we could also say that the family was probably a major victim of oversaturation, right? The family was a victim of the fact that times changed and it was just too much music out there. I'll shut up.
All right.
And everybody was doing that Prince sound at this time too. That was a prominent sound. So it wasn't like they were doing something that you hadn't heard before.
Like I always said, What's good enough for the goose is good enough for the gander. Oh, Sheila.
Right.
Oh, Sheila.
That's a great example because
Brother Jack Moore, that's for you, baby.
It's a great example.
Okay, we got to keep moving because where's that timekeeper at? We're having a great time today, but we got a lot more to cover in a very short period of time. So these are the only lyrics my husband could find for me. Feline Got My Body Wasted, handwritten by Prince here. But we are going to move on to our next reading, which is a little bit more about Nothing Compares to You. And Michael Dean, if you don't mind reading, I want you to do a short reading. It's on page 362. And just do the first couple of paragraphs, skip the quote, and then the last paragraph, but skip the quote. So the first two paragraphs and the last paragraph.
Talk about Prince is on fire. Was on fire?
Yeah, Prince was on fire.
All right. Wednesday, January 18th. Nothing Compares to You. Saxophone overdubs. Flying Cloud Drive Warehouse, Eden Prairie, Minnesota. Producer Prince. Artist, the family engineer Susan Rogers assumed. A quote from Eric Leeds.
We don't have to read the quote, just the first two paragraphs.
Just get right to him. Prince was on fire. Rehearsals for the Purple Rain tour were going strong, and the movie was scheduled to open in just over a week. During this incredibly busy time, he continued to focus on music for the family. Luckily, Eric Leeds was staying in Minneapolis for a longer period, and Prince had Susan Rogers prepared Nothing Compares to You for sax overdubs. But when he tried to guide Leeds, it didn't go over well. I remember Prince asking me for a Clarence Clemens kind of solo, which do your Googles on who that is, which immediately put me in a bad mood. No rock and roll here. So I gave him an Eric Leeds solo, and he dug it. Although the song was well liked by many in the band, Leeds holds a different view. Nothing Compares to You was my absolute least favorite song on the album. And to this day, it's not one of my favorite songs of his. A little more rock and rollish, a little more popish than the other stuff.
And then the last paragraph starting with despite on the next page.
Right. Despite all the attention Prince was giving the family project, no one was sure about what would happen to the group. Prince left many projects in his wake, and he was someone who was generally focused on his current music. So by the time this was released, it would probably be considered outdated music by him. I don't think he had even really come to terms yet with what he was going to do with the group, explains Leeds.
And that's a wrap.
Oh, right.
All right. So I think that Eric Leeds' comments are actually, I mean, I'm trying to put myself back in 85 as I would have been 13 or 14 years old when the family came out. And I wonder if my memory in terms of Nothing Compares to You is correct or not. I feel like I've always loved this song, but in reading that it's like a little bit more popish than the other stuff. It might be the case where my memory has, because I could see where me as a 13, 14-year-old would really resonate with this as being very popish, like Nothing Compares to You. So I don't know. I'm not mad at Eric Leeds.
And I'm reminding myself now as I think of the version. I wonder what he's talking about is not the version that's on the album per se. You know what I'm saying? Where a lot of that stuff is taken out. He's talking about that boom, 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 that verse. So I can understand what he's saying. Like that when I first heard that version, I was kind of like, that's kind of interesting. So this song has went through so many different iterations by the time it came out.
Yes. All right. So let me show you what I got. I got some lyrics for Nothing Compares to You, handwritten by Prince. And what's interesting about it was I had never noticed this verse before where Prince wrote, "Nothing makes me happy anymore. Any price I would have paid just to have you here today." So that was taken out, which is interesting. Okay. So our next reading, and I think it might be you, Seeley. So I can hear myself, I don't know, repeating for some reason. Thursday, July 19th. I'm going to read this with the quickness just because we're running out of time, so my apologies. And let me make sure you guys can see some people instead of me. All right, Thursday, July 19th, rehearsal, Flying Cloud Drive, Warehouse, Eden Prairie. Producer Prince, artist Prince, and the Revolution with Eric Leeds, engineer Susan Rogers assumed. Prince was spending, I'm going to skip the quote from Brown Mark. Prince was spending, not because we don't love Brown Mark, we love Brown Mark. We just run out of time. Prince was spending a great deal of time with his band prepping for the upcoming fall tour. Prince was on top of his game 24/7 for the 12 years I was his keyboard player, said Matt Fink. 12 years. But the amount of discipline he put out there, he expected from everyone else. And if you couldn't keep up with him, you're out. He let you know that he was not pleased with that. And I'm going to skip to the middle of the page. During today's rehearsal, Prince played guitar and ran the band through multiple jams, including an impromptu groove containing parts of at least 2 James Brown songs. I Can't Stand Myself, 1967, and It's Too Funky in Here, 1979. References to hairdresser Earl Jones, who is Joe Jones' uncle, High Fashion from the Family's Music, and a riff from the live version of Baby I'm a Star were apparent during the jam. Then I'm going to skip over to page 365. During this rehearsal, Prince also played a blues song that has been referred to as either sleazy or blues in G, but it is actually a cover of B.B. King's Help I Don't Need, which is about a man finding out that his lover was fooling around with a variety of men. Prince tweaked the lyrics to make the song about Brown Mark and Bobby Z. The track was probably never revisited in the studio. Additional time was spent working on live versions of 17 Days, Irresistible Bee, and When Doves Cry for the upcoming movie premiere. And status. No documentation exists of anything from this jam being recorded in the studio. Not all rehearsals were documented. Only the ones that have been verified are listed here. And again, remember, this is Flying Cloud Drive Warehouse. Now, I skipped a lot in this particular section, so that's where you need to go back and do your reading so you can make sure that you have read everything that Duane wrote.
I love that he throws BB King in there. I mean, it just goes to show what he's really listening to and what he knows. To me, at that age, I only knew BB King as something that my grandma and them played when I went over there, and grown folks was in there doing what grown folks do. They would always have BB King on. So I would, I would never expect, Prince to be doing that, but it just goes to show this dude was into music. Like, he knew all those songs. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is interesting.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Somebody I've said before, from the age of 6, my father would take me to the BB King homecoming concert in Indianola, Mississippi. And if you remember, Morris Day talks about the first time he met Andre and Prince. He went to the little high school, and that Prince was playing not just Santana riffs, but these really hardcore blues riffs. And I think a lot of that gets mixed, that by the time Prince was a teenager, he had already mastered the blues. And I think that's something that I think that's a part of Prince's foundation that doesn't get explored enough. And it's one of the very few things about which I'm disappointed. People talk about, there's not really much Prince did that disappointed me. The only thing that disappointed me is that BB King himself put out a call. They asked BB King, who's the only person you haven't played with that you want to play with? And BB King said, I want to play with Prince.
Oh, wow.
And I was always disappointed. So I remember the day BB King died, and I wrote a poem about that. But the day BB King died, I remember being angry that B.B. King left this earth. And so you can hear that. So you see now that Prince knew who B.B. King was, revered B.B. King, was playing him. And, you know, again, you can't do everything you want to do. So I want to be clear. All of us got plans, and sometimes you just can't get around to it. So I want to be clear that I don't think Prince didn't do it out of spite or out of malice. Sometimes you just get busy. But that's probably one of the biggest disappointments in my life, that B.B. King sent out a signal to say, I want to play with Prince. And clearly, based on what we have in this rehearsal and what Morris Day has said, Prince understood B.B. King to be seminal to everything that he was doing. I'll shut up.
He may have been intimidated or just in awe.
Right.
I wouldn't say intimidated. Maybe he was just in awe. Because, I mean, you know, the same thing with Miles Davis.
Right.
You know, it wasn't that he didn't want to work with him or he, you know, couldn't work with him. He probably was just in awe.
So revered, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because his dad had said jazz musician, and so I'm sure his dad played the blues too. And so I'm sure his dad hipped him to who these individuals were. That's why he knew this stuff at 13, 14, and knew who Miles Davis was, and then was just, you know, like, this ain't the people that I'm used to working with. This is who, you know, these people. You know, and you just, you know, sometimes, man, you just get in that moment where you're just a fan,
right?
Or he was human, and I think he just may have been in that, you know, flattered that they complimented him and said those things, but you know, when it came down to it, he, you know, probably just couldn't get over that fandom, man, and it just, you know, just had so much reverence for him that he just was just like, nah, I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah. Just, and I just want to add real quick. It's interesting to think, like, he was not, even the guys who were the actual Yodas, the real legends, you know, the people that was like upper echelon in the musical game like that. Particularly, these are other Black, you know, revered artists that, like, your parents, like, no, these are the real, this is the serious. For him to be so young and they already recognized him,
right?
That's very interesting. Like, you know, of course, we did the Miles thing. You know, he had an early interaction with Sly, Shaka, all these people. And even I always buzz out, like, in the early Prince, when they were like, yo, we want Maurice White to come in and do your shit. The fact that he can still, he's that young and early, but they already know, like, yo, this young brother right here, he's the next, he's anointed by the game. You know, Maurice White, like, ain't really nothing I can do for him. He already got it. You know what I'm saying? And the fact that these cats already recognize that, yeah, okay, I see you doing, you're cute, you got your little booty out, and you know what I'm saying? You got, you know, all of that, but he can play.
Right.
I love that they recognize, yo, this nigga can get down.
Yeah.
And so I love that, man. That was early on. He was already recognized by the legends. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely one of the cats.
And I just say two things. The first thing, I agree, and remember, Ray Parker Jr. did the same thing. You know, they wanted Ray Parker, and Ray Parker listened to it and said, ain't nothing I can do for this player. Now, you know, you got, you know, think what we will of Ray Parker. That was the time Ray Parker Jr. was a hit machine. People don't remember that Ray Parker was a hit machine, both as a solo artist and in the group. Yeah. Ray Parker was a hit. So if you don't know who Ray Parker Jr. is, as Brother Dean said, do your Googles.
Yeah, it's way bigger than Ghostbusters.
Yeah,
Before
Ghostbusters. Yeah, before Ghostbusters. Get Ghostbusters. Go back to, and Ray Parker Jr. said, ain't nothing I can do for you. And so I just want to add to the chat for people who may not know. I just want to give you 3 B.B. King songs. If you've never gotten into B.B. King, I'll just give you these 3 songs. Nobody Loves Me But My Mother, 3 O'Clock Blues, and How Blue Can You Get? There are more, but if you want to start your B.B. King journey, Nobody Loves Me But My Mother, 3 O'Clock Blues, and How Blue Can You Get? And listen to those, and then go listen to If the Kid Can't Make You Come, and come back and tell me what time it is.
Is Nobody Loves Me But My Mother, the one where he says, and she might be jiving too.
And she might be jiving too. So Nobody Loves Me But My Mother. but she could be jiving too.
Yeah. Okay, that was featured on a Cosby Show episode when he guested on the Cosby Show, so they did that song.
Which I just gotta say this too. Which we've talked about it. But this just goes back to the James Brown with Mike and all that. Regardless of what happened on the stage, it says everything that James Brown is like. You can come up here and play.
Mm-hmm.
You can give him the guitar. That's it. You can trip. Oh, he's a setup. No. The fact that the Godfather is so like the young buck he wasn't even a superstar yet. He was just black famous, about to blow.
Right.
Yeah.
You come on up here. You anointing it. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm saying. You were already recognized by the legends, like, yo, you good enough to play, because ain't no way. I mean, Prince wouldn't really be allowing nobody to get up unless he was either two things. You was really raw, and he was gonna let you go, or Prince is gonna clown you.
Yeah,
right.
Give him the
one of the
guitar.
other. It was one of the other. Yeah.
You need help getting it started? Like he was gonna clown you. You know what I'm saying? So it was only two ways, but yeah, man, he was a shit.
All right, so we're gonna get to the end, and we still have our music break and our Prince break, but I'm gonna try to get through it with quickness. So, week 29, so far in 1984, Prince has written 38 new songs and has had 75 studio visits total. And the two songs again this week were Liegh, I think it's you. Do you mind muting yourself? Nothing Compares to You and Feline. And then we had our rehearsal July 19th, Flying Cloud Drive. So let's get to the music break. Hiatus Coyote is doing their final show tonight in Oakland, California. Do we have anybody in the chat that's going to that? That's in California. So if you know any peeps in Oakland, tell them to go see the show. Corey Henry is still doing his thing overseas. Last week he was in Paris. I need to hear from Arthur, because Arthur went to the Paris show to see how he did. I'm sure he was phenomenal, because he always is. But this week he will be, well, actually tonight. Tonight he's going to be in Finland, and tomorrow Corey Henry will be in Poland. Please support Corey Henry. He's amazing. And I love this tweet I saw earlier today from Damian Valentini on, I can still call it Twitter. The funkiest gig I had in Paris since Prince was Corey Henry. So that's saying a lot. And I also want to promote this event for my dear friend, Jason Orr, who joins us for the symposia. He is doing a double feature on Saturday, August 3rd, celebrating 30 years of Funk Jazz Cafe, which is an institution in the ATL. And to be honest, Jason was really ahead of his time. Like the Funk Jazz Cafe was more than, he called it an arts and music culture festival, but he would never announce the lineup, so you never knew who was going to be performing. And he had so many amazing guests over the years. But not only did he have a phenomenal actual concert, but there would be food vendors, there'd be clothing vendors, there would be like wellness suites, there would be poetry suites, there would be jazz suites. And we're talking about 30 years ago, all before all of these different kinds of festivals. So Jason really doesn't get the credit that he actually deserves. And if you're in the ATL area on August 3rd, I highly recommend that you come and see both or one of the screenings that he will be doing. One is Stepping Into Tomorrow. And for those of you who were at the Triple Threat Symposium, you got to actually see a preview of that. He still is in pre-screening mode, getting feedback on this documentary that he's currently producing about the jazz funk legends. Excellent. And thank you. Yeah. Anything else anybody wants to say about Stepping Into Tomorrow for the people?
Well, not so much about that, but I actually attended a funk jazz event, and it was indescribable. It's probably the best way. Yeah. I mean, see, you said it with the levels of like one floor was this, one floor was that, one floor. It was the first time I had ever seen that. I just remember saying like, man, I got to come back and play at one of these. It's just a phenomenal event. I mean, you had to be there. And then with all that going on simultaneously, you had the main stage.
Mm-hmm.
You had the event, and it was just cool just to be like in an environment in which you knew there were people of a certain artistic nature, not so much that were like performing or painting or doing whatever, but just there in general, just enjoying the vibes and say the music. And it was just one of those good vibe places, man. You know, it was just great to go. I mean, I'm glad I went. I mean, I'm kind of speechless, but I'm just glad I went. And if you can, I'm gonna check out the August 3rd screening. I'm gonna try to catch it as much as I can, man. And kind of support my man with that. But it was a phenomenal night.
Yeah, I hope so. And let's see, Ricky, or maybe go ahead.
I was just going to say the documentary is another brilliant example that Black music is a barometer of the social political condition of Black people. And so it's not just that you get all this great information, you really understand how Black music has been the lifeblood of the community. And I think that's the most, because, the part that he's initially doing, it started out as him saying, hey, the hip hop generation needs to understand from where these samples come, right? So that's kind of the top of what this documentary is doing. But in his brilliance, in Jason Orr's brilliance, he allowed the documentary to breathe and grow. And what you are actually getting is, if you want to know what was happening, Amir Baraka says this in his book, Blues People. So I tell anybody, if you've never read the book Blues People was the book that let me know I could write a book analyzing Prince's lyrics. So if you've never read Blues People by Leroy Jones and Amir Baraka, please pick that book up. But he said that Black music has always been a barometer. Black music has always been a barometer of Black culture. And this documentary by Jason Orr proves that. And then not only has it been a barometer for us, Black music has been the thing that has kept us sane.
Mm-hmm.
I have a line in a poem. Called Music Is, and I say that Black people sing songs to keep from killing and kill when we have no more songs left to sing. That is what music is to us. We sing songs to keep from killing, and we kill when we have no more songs left to sing. And I think that documentary shows that's what Black music has always represented to our community. I'll shut up.
Well, I just got to throw a question to you, though, as I agree with what you said. But what happens when the songs are used for killing?
It means that we have finally allowed capitalism to rape our souls, and we now have no more soul. That was a time when, and I know this may not rub people the right way, but that was a time, the civil rights movement was the soul of America. There was no Christianity in America until Black people forced America to live up to its Christian ideals. Let me say that again. There was no Christianity in America until Black people forced America to live up to its Christian ideals. And so what you see now in our music is that Black people, who was once the soul of America, we've been so beaten down by capitalism and colonialism that we now have so modern air, gangster rap modern air, is the result of what white America has done to Black people. That's what gangster rap is. Gangster rap comes after. So when you talk about what gangster rap is, you have to understand that gangster rap is our response to the hell that white people put us through. So if America had always been fair, if America had lived up to its Christian code, if America had not reneged, the ending of Reconstruction, if you know what Reconstruction is, modern era, Reconstruction was a promise to slaves. We were going to reconstruct America and make it fair, and America reneged on Reconstruction, and 400 years after reneging on, 100 years after reneging on Reconstruction, you get gangster rap. So when you want to blame gangster rap, blame the evil of white America. You can say, but Prince. But what was Prince at the end of his career? What did Prince say in Baltimore? Prince said it's time for black people to become black nationalists. It's time for black. Prince said the next time I return to Baltimore, I want to play in a studio owned by black people. I want to be driven by a limousine owned by black people. So even at the end of Prince's career, Martinaire, Prince was saying that Martin Luther King said, I have integrated my people into a burning house. Prince, at the end of his career, was saying that we have integrated into a burning house and it's time for us to get the hell out this burning house. So while I don't agree with gangster rap, I'm not going to let you point a finger at gangster rap and not point a finger at the hell of white supremacy, the hell of Jim Crow that created gangster rap, and that Prince himself, at the end of his career, go listen to Black Muse, Martinaire. Go listen to Rainbow Children, Martinaire. Go listen to all those songs Prince was dropping. Go listen to the 2 songs he wrote for Kevin Campbell, Uncle Sam and Paris 739410, whatever the hell those numbers are. Go listen to You Will Be Moved. Go listen to You Will Be Moved. Go listen to all those. Go listen to Sacrifice a Victim, Martinaire. Go listen to The Exodus Has Begun, Martinaire. Go listen to all those songs where Prince had become tired of banging his head against white supremacy and Jim Crow. So to remove that from Prince is to eliminate and to draw him down to a white fantasy of what people want Prince to do. Prince understood that we can no longer run from the hell of white supremacy. Remember, Prince broke the internet. How did he break the internet? Because he said what? Albums and books like Black Lives Still Matter. Come to that, Prince, Martinaire. Come to that, Prince, before you want to throw gangster rap under the bus. Gangster rap is a reflection to and reaction to. Thank you, Robin. Go listen to The War, Martinaire. See, we want to cherry pick the songs that people want to talk about with Prince. Listen to all of Prince. And then when you listen to all of Prince, then we can have a real discussion about race and racism and what America did to black people and how black people stood up for them. I'll shut up.
But no doubt. Cue the organ. Cue the organ.
Woo!
Cue the organ.
That was a lot. That was really important. Thank you, Feline.
Okay, now we pass around the collection plate.
Yeah.
Hear from your heart.
God damn it.
Yes.
Hear from your heart.
It's a little too much in there.
So
I didn't get that work. I'm sorry.
So just because of time, I really want to get through the rest, but thank you so much, Liegh. It's important that we listen to all of Prince. So yes, from the beginning until the end. I think it's really important. So I do want to go back to Funk Jazz Cafe because I didn't get finished. And so one of the documentaries that Jason will be presenting that night, August 3rd, is Stepping Into Tomorrow. That's the first one. And then the second one, which I highly recommend both of them. But if you really want to know like who Jason Orr is and what he's about and all that he has contributed to the culture, the Funk Jazz Cafe Diary of the Decade documentary is a must watch. You will see how many people came through funk jazz when no one even knew them. I could go on like on and on and on. Erykah Badu, Jill Scott, Janelle Monáe, Bilal, Omar Laifouk, Outkast, Goody. Just like it goes on and on and on and on and on. It was such a phenomenal moment in time. And when you were talking, Ricky, one of the things that I wanted to say was that the people who came to Funk Jazz Cafe were all cool. Like you knew that you were going to be surrounded by cool people and that everybody was there for the music and for the love of music. And it was just really a special time. So again, 30 years of Funk Jazz Cafe, Saturday, August 3rd at 5 at the Ray Charles Performing Arts Center near the AUC, Atlanta University Center, and hope that you guys will come out for that. Okay, Purple World. Really quickly, I just want to, because this is becoming a little bit like my diary, so if I watch this 10 years from now, I want to remember that I have my phenomenal cousin slash niece with me this week, and we went to go see Purple Rain. She's 16 years old, and she had never seen Purple Rain for the first time. And I was concerned. I was like, I don't know if she's going to like it, but she loved it. So it was so great. Yeah, she loved it. She actually had we had fun, and they had props. They had like a blow up guitar that you could see that we had to blow up. Had some purple round glasses, and then they had like a purple wand. That was really cool. So we had a lot of fun at the Alamo. So if you can go see Purple Rain, I've seen Purple Rain a lot lately, in the past month or so, and it never gets old. I've seen it a lot of times, and my cousin was like, "Have you already seen this?" So I was like, "Yes, multiple times," and I love it. All right. Another thing I think is really important, because I haven't, Celia, do you mind muting yourself? I think it's you, because I hear myself. Thank you. Another thing that's really important is that Spike Moss, if you don't know who Spike Moss is, definitely do your Googles. And this really relates to Celia's conversation that we just had, because Spike Moss was a mentor for so many youth in North Minneapolis, Prince being one of them, Sonny T and others. But Minneapolis has named a street after Spike Moss. And in the article, if you read it, it says that Minneapolis rarely does this for people who are still living. So Spike Moss is still alive. He is 78 years old. He actually came last year to the Apollo when there was a screening of Mr. Nelson on the North Side, and I had never seen him speak before. And he is still like amazing. You can tell how many lives he has impacted just with the short time that I was in his presence and hearing what he had to say. It was really transformational. So I'm so happy to hear that Minneapolis is honoring him by giving him a street named in his honor. And with the slideshow, if you go to the website for the book club, which is, if I can find it, bookclub.podsol.com, you click on it, it'll take you to the article, or you can do your Googles, as Michael Dean would say. We talked about this early on today, but anytime Jesse Johnson speaks, I think it's really important because he was with Prince a lot. And also he is phenomenal in his own right, and he is one of the best musicians alive. So we want to give respect and honor to Jesse Johnson. So many thanks to Funkatopia for during this interview with Jesse, which is going to be on July 23rd at 8 p.m. So don't sleep. And if you can't make it live, obviously it will be on their YouTube channel. And I'm getting really psyched for the virtual symposium. I hope that you are too. And again, you can go to any of my socials, and you should find out how you can register. But if you just go to bit.ly/PrinceCom30, you can also find information that way, and we'll have more information soon. And thank you so much, Christina, because I was not aware of this. Miss Sheila is playing at the Dakota on Friday. So if you're in the Minneapolis area, go see Sheila, because Sheila is amazing, and we support everything that she does because she's still doing her thing. And then we already talked about the accompanying playlist, but don't sleep on it. And highly recommend that you listen to the Erotic City / Feline rehearsal, which is number 2 on this list. And you can also hear Prince's version of Feline and a gazillion versions of Nothing Compares to You. And I will add that cinematic mix because I saw it somewhere and I just forgot to add it. And then next week, we will be reading pages 365 to 371. And we are going to be talking about one of my favorite songs of all time, written by Prince, which is America. Can't wait to start. I can talk about that every day. And then in addition to that,
oh, no. Big old soul sister. Shut up. Big old soul sister.
Yeah. Yes. And then we're also going to talk about the premiere of Purple Rain, the movie. So next week in 1984, the premiere of Purple Rain happened. So we're going to be talking a lot about that, obviously. And then we are going to be at the end. I can't believe we're already at the end of July, which is kind of crazy to think about. So how we doing on time? We did okay. We're 5 minutes after. So Michael Dean, take us home.
Well, what a phenomenal show today was. A lot of great information. Seeley, rare form, dropping some good stuff. Ricky coming through as usual, dropping some good stuff. D'Angela doing her thing. So this was great. Like, this was, what a way to start Saturday. Get energized. I love this. Salute to all the people in the chat who are with us, watching us live. The comments, you guys add so much to the show. We certainly appreciate it. We love that y'all show up for us every weekend. This is a labor of love. With that said, work it like a job. We'll see you next time.
All right.
And don't forget the homework, Boston 86 show. You got to watch it.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, and real quick, shout out to, was it Claw? He put in the thing about the Take It Home BB King with the Crusaders. Thank you, sir. I'm on that. I'm on that today. I didn't know about this, so I appreciate that. We'll check that out.
All right.